Aloha. With this video, I wanted to break down scientifically how the heliocentric model falls flat on its face in comparison to basic scientific observations by the book definitions of scientific definitions of what we're observing when we are challenging the heliocentric model. I was looking up the scientific method, the definition of a fact, the definition of a theory, the definition of a hypothesis, and I just wanted to share it with people so we could see more clearly outside of the emotions of, basically not challenging the entire way you perceive this reality, your entire universe, outside of the emotions and the personal connections that we have to such a thing. I was really just questioning and asking myself, what legs do the scientific community claim to be standing upon? And really, they don't have any legs to stand on because their own definitions of what they claim to be standing on completely debunk themselves. So in this definition of the scientific method is the testing of theories. So it was not always about the testing of theories. Before 1600, philosophers often believed statements just because they sounded right. So this is what we're dealing with today. People are believing in heliocentrism because they sound right. So right now, we're coming into questioning our reality, not because things sound right, based upon the fact that people used to believe anything that came out of the church and literally believe what came out of the Bible. It was a whole frame of consciousness that we've been conditioned in over the years based upon control measures. So if you can be controlled by the king and the queen, having an authority from God, or which they told you, then you'll believe that. If you can believe in the government having an authority through manifest destiny of conquering a people's land because they were primitive and savage, and their intelligence gives them the right by God to slaughter, genocide, and control them, then that is a belief that came from a theory that has been accepted as a fact based upon the consciousness of the people at that time frame. We are at a time now where we are challenging the belief systems that have been installed into our consciousness by intelligences that don't at all have any connection to nature or have any connection to true science, true alchemy, and true interpretation of this reality. In fact, these people had to slaughter and destroy the people who had a natural and scientific and alchemical connection to this land and each other in order to install their new empire. The new empire is based upon theories. It's based upon generating artificial facts and artificial theories to back up an artificial interpretation of this universe. So a fact is a statement based on direct experience. There are no direct experiences in heliocentrism when you really break it down. And I'll give you the direct experiences in a second that we accept as fact and they pawn off as fact. A hypothesis is a statement that is proposed without actual proof to explain the facts and their relationship. So we're talking about relationships here, relationships between the physical and the non-physical, or relationships between humanity and the animal kingdom, the relationships between nature and humanity, the relationships between the weather, the relationships between our consciousness and how we perceive this reality. All this stuff has been studied by many people for many generations, but the new theory of the peak of evolution, the peak of human evolution, has told you that any of those facts, those came from primitive, demon worshipping, people who weren't really connected to real science or real spirituality, because real science is university science today. Real spirituality is, Christianity and atheism. Actually, it went from the kings and the queens to the church to now the university system. And the university system delivers its sermon of artificial facts to people on a daily basis. And now the internet is just another version of distributing that information to people so they can develop this artificial scientific interpretation of this reality. But ultimately, it's still based upon theories, hypothesis, and theories. So a theory is a formulation of an apparent relationship among certain observed phenomena, which has been verified to some extent. In this sense, a theory is the same as a hypothesis, except that we have a stronger belief in it because more evidence supports it. So the only difference between a theory and a hypothesis is the stronger belief in a theory, because a theory has more evidence to support it. So anybody can develop a hypothesis on what this universe is, from the most dumbed down, ridiculous interpretation of what this is to a very complex alchemical interpretation of what this is, and everything in between. What we're interpreting, or what we're understanding from the university system, what they claim to know about this universe, is all based upon theory. So we'll go back to the beginning. And like I said, these theories, when they don't have true evidence to back it up, these theories are still just hypothesis. They're still just a hypothesis. The more evidence that we believe is more evidence that goes from hypothesis to theory. The more evidence that the system provides to us to make us believe that their theories are facts, that they have been provable and repeated, like the fact of a statement that is a direct experience. Supposedly going to the moon was, in their eyes, and delivered to you, to mind control you, that was their version of turning their facts or their theories and their hypothesis into a fact. Before 1969 and the Apollo missions, all of the heliocentric interpretations of our reality were simply theories. They were simply hypotheses. When the Apollo missions claimed to have gone to the moon, they turned their theories and their hypotheses into facts in the eyes of the masses. Once they turned their theories into facts, now they just created an entire mind control program, another book system, school system based upon their new platform now. Now they have a platform of facts, and those facts validate all of the other theories that led up to going to the moon.
I have to ask you this, since it's Columbus Day, does that mean anything to you as a Native person?
I mean, with no disrespect to anyone, I think asking Native people to celebrate Columbus Day is kind of like asking the American people to celebrate Osama bin Laden Day. And I actually think that terrorism arrived on this hemisphere with Columbus, because for us as Native people, the experience that we had was, I mean, how did my land become somebody else's country?
Fair enough.
Columbus. I guess I'll just start with Columbus. See, I have a real problem about all of this. I mean, see, to me, he was like a virus, a disease. But when I think about it, because I spent a lot of time protesting, trying to figure out how to deal with this disease. But I think that we really need to put serious thought into understanding that we're dealing with a disease. You know, it's like there's this predator energy on this planet. And this predator energy feeds upon the essence of the spirit, feeds upon the essence of the human being, the spirit. Now, this predator energy can take fossil fuel and other resources out of the earth, turn it into fuel to run a machine system. But in order for there to be a need for that system, and in order for that system to work, they have to mine our minds to get at the essence of our spirit. And the same way the external mining takes place, it pollutes. We see now, people understand how it poisons the environment, the water, the air, pollution. The mining of the essence, the mining of the spirit, mining our minds, the pollution from that is all of the neurotic, distorted, insecure behavior patterns that we develop. That's the pollution. Because in order for this predatory system, this disease, to work, we must not be able to use our minds in a clear, coherent manner. Because if we use our minds in a clear, coherent manner, we will not accept the unacceptable. But it's a disease, lives and travels through the mind, through the generations.
So going to the moon made the theory of gravity a fact. Going to the moon made the theory of relativity a fact. Going to the moon made the Big Bang theory a fact. It made all of Newton and Copernicus and Einstein's black hole math and E equals MC squared, all the stuff that is cherished and worshipped and that was promoted by the government leading up to 1969 was now activated as a scientific fact. Starting at when you start to question the flat or heliocentrism and start looking into alternative interpretations of this reality, you'll realize that the facts that are provided by this system are not at all based upon fact. They're only based upon theory. Their facts are based upon, or what they're telling you are facts, are stuff like pictures from space. That is what they are explaining in the difference between a theory and a hypothesis. Pictures of space are actually in this quote of this definition of a theory, pictures of space are their version of a stronger belief in it because more evidence supports it. More evidence, they're claiming, in your world are these CGI images of Earth. The CGI images of the galaxies, the CGI images of planets, the CGI images of everything, space, the NASA video, the ISS going around the Earth, and then you see the light up there go. You see it and you can track it on the internet. This is your version of, in the definition of a fact, your version of a direct experience. Your direct experience is seeing that light, which you don't know really what it is. So it's not actually a direct experience. It's a part of a direct experience. Your eyes are not completely your experience. That's not everything. There's more, in this case especially, you're looking at the stars the same way you look at the planets. Your eye, you see a light up there, and in your mind you see a solid spherical body because the CGI images posted by NASA have conditioned you to think like that. So you generate, through the theories and the hypothesis of the system, you have been conditioned to see the universe based upon the way they present it to you. Once you start that, you're actually reprogramming yourself. You're reprogramming yourself to hear things differently, to see things differently, to taste things differently. It's exactly like, I was going to say it's similar to, but it's not similar to. It's exactly the way a hypnotist hypnotizes an individual to eat an onion and think it's an apple. So you look at the stars, you look at the lights out there in the sky, and you look at that, and you can see with your own eyes when you put a telescope up there, you can see the image with your own eye. It doesn't match the images that are coming back to us. But since you don't know how to trust yourself, you're going to tell yourself, this is an apple because they've told me it's an apple. Even though you're eating an onion, you've changed your taste buds. Your brain is actually what's perceiving your taste buds and your eyesight. So all the system has to do is reprogram your brain to get before your senses. So your brain and the way your consciousness perceives this reality will then reprogram your senses to see things and feel things and hear things in a different way. This goes for politicians, this goes for professors, this goes for scientists, this goes for mainstream media, this goes for comedians, this goes for every single mainstream or every single mind control program that's out there that's backing up these false facts of the way we interpret our universe. So we have the hypothesis, we have the theory, we have facts, we have the scientific method. The scientific method that has been presented is a sense of pride that this establishment has. The thing is, they have pride only in synthetic facts. These synthetic facts were developed to maintain control over the consciousness of the people, and in turn maintaining the control of the power, their senses, their function, the functioning of their unit is dedicated towards the system itself. So as long as you believe in the system, you will have to believe what the system tells you to do with your purpose and meaning in this universe. So if your consciousness has been manipulated to think that you're a nothing piece of stardust that was shat out of nothing, and the only thing that matters in this universe is the intelligence that has been studied and understood by the university system, you have now submitted to another king and queen. Instead of having the authority based upon death and destruction, which it's the same as today with the military industrial complex and so on and so forth, today's version of control is based upon intelligence. It's still death and destruction with the fear of war and so on and so forth. But psychologically and interactively with the amount of information that's out there, this is why Donald Trump has to be a focus, because he maintains the entertainment value. He maintains the power, the power that comes from nothing. He's a manifestation of synthetic power. He's a manifestation of nothing. He's less powerful than anybody who tells the truth or has questions of this reality. He's there to hold the place of the system itself, where the system itself has no organic power. It only has synthetic interpretation, synthetic facts, synthetic beliefs that we're supposed to be the peak of evolutionary existence. And once you really break down their versions of, like it says in here, their versions of where is it at? Stronger beliefs and more evidence. Once you break that down and you have a foundation of realizing that this government, which is NASA, which is the university system all in one, has zero credibility. Once you break that down, it makes it a lot easier to start to look into things and start to question this reality from a deeper part of yourself.
Christianity, by it being a mundane, lower religion as far as telling you to pray to people, good behavior, it only initiates you on the lower level. And that's what's happening now. You can't think on a higher level because everything is based on, you know, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not do all of this type of shit. And the 10 Commandments came from the 47 negative confessions out of the book of Coming Forth by Day of Egypt, right? And in Egypt, in the pyramid text, it was not saying that you didn't do all this. This was saying because I am a perfect soul, my soul hadn't done all of this. My physical body can do all this shit because it's an illusion that they're talking about. Your soul ain't did shit because you are in temporary insanity. You were born in a world, you don't know who the fuck you are. You don't know where the hell you came from. You think you from South Carolina.
If you have a belief and a love and a pride in the Americas and the Western traditions and the colonial movements and the genocide and the slaughtering of people, if you have more of a love and a vested interest in the post-Columbian era, it will be that much difficult to even question or challenge any of the belief systems that hold up this backwards version of a civilization.
If you're a liberal, you're supposed to be for free speech. That's free speech for the speech you hate. That's what free speech means. We're losing the thread of the concepts that are important to this country. If you care about the real American shit or you don't, and if you do, it goes for every side. I don't like Alex Jones, but Alex Jones gets to speak. Everybody gets to speak.
No Negro leaders have fought for civil rights.
What do you mean
they
by
have
fought?
begged for civil rights. They have begged the white man for civil rights. They have begged the white man for freedom. And anytime you beg another man to set you free, you will never be free. Freedom is something that you have to do for yourself.
3/5 of a man, subhuman, less than a human being. It relegates us to the level of cattle, hogs, chickens, cows, a commodity that could be bought and sold at the will of the master. No, it was written by whites for the benefit of whites and to the detriment of blacks. And when a black man stands up talking about his constitutional rights, he's out of his mind.
This place can only be seen as a civilization if they have at first had demonized previous civilizations that were functioning outside of this control grid. This is why it's so important to keep in mind and to focus on, or at least put some attention to, the story of the indigenous people, because the story of the indigenous people is giving you an example of the power to convince you out of your own real connections to this universe.
The pig is a very clean animal. The pig is related to hippopotamus. They will bathe all day if you leave them in the wild. They're more intelligent than a dog. If you leave them in the wild, they're very clean. They bathe in all the time because they can't sweat, so they got to get in water to cool themselves off. You took the pig, put the pig in the ghetto, around no pools or water, and so he had to roll in his own bowel movement. Then you say the pig's filthy, pig's dirty. No. What you did to the pig was dirty and filthy, but there's nothing wrong with the pig. That's like the same thing happened to you. Took you from Africa, put you in the ghetto and said, look at you, selling crack, raping your own children. What did you let go? No, it's not wrong with you. It's the situation you've been put in.
The power that comes from the side effects of that synthetic power of channeling your energy and your consciousness into something that benefits this system. Once you break all those codes, you now have access to a deeper part of yourself, a deeper part of interpreting this reality, and you have now broken down a lot of these walls and barriers and traps that have been developed by the system to keep you enslaved. So once you realize that all the pictures from space are ridiculous, and you've already gone there because you know NASA doesn't have one leg to stand on anyway, then you start realizing, okay, that's one thing I had to break down. Then you look at the ISS. Then you look at the mind control of the television. You can see the mind control of the movies, how they put NASA and their version of space in the movies to further condition you. Another belief that they call like in this version of a theory that they're claiming is fact, boats going over the horizon. That's their version of more evidence to support their theory. Now, we're living in a world that believes theories are facts, and and not even the theories that we get here from this system they're not even following the rules of their own scientific observations, because in order for them to believe that boats go over the horizon, they have to be ignorant of the fact that there's cameras to see that boats actually don't go over any curved horizon. So they're remaining ignorant, willfully ignorant, in order to back up their artificial theories.
We have another call waiting. Hello.
Could I?
Hello. Go ahead. What's your question, please?
My question concerns, you blame it on the white man on how we came over and take your land. I don't understand when the Japanese are coming over and they're buying it, and that's okay. I don't see what this is about the Howleys coming over. You come over to our country and buy up our land too. It works both ways. I don't see how you can have this rallies and everything against the white man. This is America,
Let me just say something to this call. This is not America. This is Polynesia. Our country was stolen. That's one of your problems. You're ignorant, woefully ignorant. I am very active against Japanese ownership of our land. I have testified repeatedly at various commissions and at the legislature in opposition to any foreigner owning Hawaiian land. But you, caller, need to learn about Hawaiian history and about where you are. And that attitude that you have is the same attitude that Joey Carter has. You think you are in America. You are not in America. You are in a colony that is in Polynesia that was forcibly taken, just as, I might add, all of Eastern Europe was forcibly taken by the Soviet Union, which Americans think is a very, very bad place. The bad, bad Soviet Union. Well, the bad, bad United States of America took Puerto Rico, it took Alaska, it stole Indian land, it took Hawaii, it took Guam, it took Micronesia, Palau, and you had better learn that history because you are the recipient of an imperialist tradition.
You have to believe everything NASA promotes and says. You have to believe everything that SpaceX says. You have to believe everything that the government says. You have to believe all of this stuff. This is what we're not really understanding when we have individual people bickering back and forth on the internet about flat versus the globe. We're not really talking about that. We're talking about belief systems. You're talking about a belief in something. That something is not just some little thing. That belief is more than a belief in the eyes of the government, in the eyes of NASA, in the eyes of the university system. Their beliefs, which I've just showed you, are not facts. They are nothing more than evolved hypothesis. And that hypothesis was turned into a theory by the university system. And those theories were turned into makeshift facts by things like telling you that they went to the moon, and telling you that gravity is a real thing, and telling you that the Big Bang is a fact and not a theory. All these things that we believe in are the reasons why, at the foundation, the reasons why a lot of the people who are defending the heliocentric model can't really break those codes, because it's the things that they believe in, that they hold true to themselves, that actually make up who and what they are. The hardest thing to do is to change yourself. Being presented with another version of the perceiving your universe requires you to at least have some small percentage of at least being open to changing yourself. The person who's going to have the most difficulty with looking at this information are the people who have the deepest pride in stuff like America, the deepest pride in the science world, the deepest pride in their car, the pride in their job, the pride in...
If you base medicine on science, you cure people. If you base the design of planes on science, they fly. If you base the design of rockets on science, they reach the moon. It works, bitches.
See, we see it 10 levels down the road. The pride that you have in the American way is the pride that you have that mirrors the pride in the American dream. The American dream is the pride that you have in Manifest Destiny. The pride in Manifest Destiny is the pride that supremacists had when they said, we discovered a new world, and these primitive savage brains that are in these primitive and savage beasts that are these primitive and savage indigenous people, they need us to save them.
Are you going to live here?
Yeah. Why do you ask?
Are all of you going to live here?
Yeah. You got a problem with that?
Well, this is our land. You can't take our land.
Excuse me, your land?
Yes, our people's land. It belongs to us. We Indians have lived here for thousands of years.
Indians? What's that?
We are Indians.
There's no such thing as an Indian. We're all humans. Oh, geez, I didn't know that such ignorant bigots like you were still around. You really need to be educated.
This land belongs to our people.
Our land is your land, and your land is my land. We live in a globalized world now, don't you know? I can't believe you don't know that. It's 1612, for heaven's sakes. Are you still living in the 1530s or something?
We Indians came here before you. You can't take the land from us.
Are you racist? There are no lands for certain people. The earth is for everybody. We're all humans. Indian is just a social construct.
They need us to tell them what their universe really looks like. They need us to tell them how to really be an evolved human. We are now deemed by God to have this destiny of slaughtering and destroying them and creating a new way of life.
You think that, hey, it'll all be fine when we just treat each other like human beings. And what that says to me is, don't be yourself. Be like me. Keep me comfortable. Connect where I'm ready to connect. Come out to my place. Or maybe I'll come down and get some artifacts from your place. That is bullshit.
The 14th Amendment is something that was used to describe aliens, meaning the new history that was being brought up, where black people all came as slaves from Africa. Anybody that subscribed to that understanding or that history, and not their own history, meaning them being born here and never coming from that place they call Africa, those people now were put under an alien aspect, meaning that they were made foreign to the land that they was born from. That's what the 14th Amendment did to blacks, Negroes, coloreds, and people who claim descent from the continent of Africa, or who refer to themselves as African Americans.
When you say that your ethnicity is American, there is no American ethnicity. You had to throw away your ethnicity to become American. That's what it means. That's what it means. You give up who you are to become American. And you can pretend that it's okay because you're white. When we give up who we are to become American, we know that we're dying from it.
Like I said, you have a pride in your job. Like, you love your job. You love the way you made it. Like, even if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you made it. Like, you've achieved something for yourself. So it goes for the individual, and you can stay in that box forever, which is what most people do because they don't want to look at the world. Because like I said, the hardest thing to do is to change. And if you start looking at the world, you're going to have to start changing parts of yourself, because parts of yourself are manifestations of the world. So people don't look at the world, and they think that they don't have to change. So the world will never change. It's only going to get worse. And then subconsciously and consciously, people will also get worse because they're not realizing how they're actually changing for the worse. And it's on purpose. It's a meticulous plan, a plot that has been going on for centuries.
All white people are not white supremacists, but a white supremacist is any white person who believes through speech, thought, and action they should be in a superior position over black people. So what's the motivation for a white supremacist? It's survival. The white supremacists are in survival mode. When the white supremacists left Europe in the 1400s and started to navigate around the world, they figured out that the world is mostly people of melanated descent. global minority, and they are still a global minority. People classified as white are less than 10% of the global population. Them to survive, in their mind, they have to control and dominate everybody on a color system and hoard all the resources for themselves as a way to survive. This is something that black folks don't understand because we're not in survival mode. We are the oldest people on the planet, so we're not in survival mode. We know we're going to be here.
Give them the desire again for individual freedom. And I'm going to tell them that as long as dictatorships remain in the world, we better remain well armed. Because the next time we're not going to get 2 years to get ready. They're going to jump us overnight. And I'm going to tell them that there's only one government which is capable of handling the atomic control, world disarmament, world employment, world peace, and that's a world government. The people of 13 states started the United States of America. Well, I think that the people of that many nations are now ready to start a United States of the world, with or without Russia. And I mean a United States of the world, with one Bill of Rights, one international law, one international currency, one international citizenship. And I'm going to tell them that the brotherhood of man is not just an idealistic dream, but a practical necessity if man is going to survive.
So you believe and you stay in your box individually that I love this. I love these ways. I love, my phone. Science added up to my phone. Science added up to my car. Science brought me together. Science brought the GPS into this world. The GPS hooked me up through Tinder to my girlfriend that lives 10 miles down the road. I would have never met her if I didn't have this technology.
People love old shit, though.
They do, and they want to believe that people who, they want to believe that people 5,000 years ago somehow knew more about the universe than we do today.
Yeah.
Just no.
Why is that? Why do they want to believe that?
I think, I don't know. For me, that's one of the great puzzles of life. Why do people want to believe that the Egyptians somehow had some access to the universe?
Of course. They definitely knew how to build some incredible shit.
Of course.
Right? But that alone,
I don't want to take that away from them.
Doesn't the physical, just the presence of these incredible buildings, leave the possibility that maybe they had some knowledge that we lost?
But if you look at the knowledge we have gleaned using the methods and modern methods and tools of science that go far beyond our five senses in our access to the world, to say that somehow they knew something that we don't using our tools, that's just false. Sorry. That's not possible.
Now we have 10 babies, and I have this job because I connected with my employer from LinkedIn, and LinkedIn connected me to this job. Oh my God, technology, thank you so much. Facebook keeps me connected with my family. Facebook tells me what's going on with the world. The mainstream media tells me what's going on with the world. How could you not love this? How could you think that these people who brought this into our lives, how could you say that they're lying to us? How dare you? Flat earthers are just flat tards. That's where people are staying in. People are staying in that box because they have nowhere else to go. They have nowhere else to go.
And I believe that, I hate to say this, a lot of these mass murders and all this funny stuff that's going on, I believe a lot of this is engineered.
A Slate article references a study by Jonathan Albright, director of the Tao Center for Digital Journalism at Columbia, who found 9,000 videos on YouTube with titles that are, and I quote, a mixture of shocking, vile, and promotional themes that include rape game jokes, shock reality, social experiments, celebrity pedophilia, false flag rants, and terror-related conspiracy theories dating back to the Oklahoma City attacks in 1995. Ms. Downs, does Google think that this is a problem, and what is the solution that you're coming up with to address it?
Thank you for the question. So as you noted, when Alex Jones posted the video you described saying that the survivors of the Parkland massacre were crisis actors, that violated our harassment policy. We have a specific policy that says if you say a well-documented violent attack didn't happen and you use the name or image of survivors or victims of that attack, that is a malicious attack and it violates our policy. In terms of conspiracy theory content generally,
I spent 33 years and 4 months in active military service, and during that period, I spent most of my time as a high-class muscle man for big business, for Wall Street and the bankers. In short, I was a racketeer, a gangster for capitalism. I helped make Mexico safe for American oil interests. I helped make Haiti and Cuba a decent place for the National City Bank boys to collect revenues in. I helped in raping of half a dozen Central American republics for the benefit of Wall Street. I helped purify Nicaragua for the International Banking House of Brown Brothers. I brought light to the Dominican Republic for the American sugar interests. I helped make Honduras right for the American fruit companies. In China, I helped see to it that Standard Oil went on its way unmolested. Looking back on it, I might have given Al Capone a few hints.
So in conclusion of this video, I just really wanted to break down the differences between hypothesis, a fact, and theories, and how we've been locked in to not really being impeccable with understanding what those definitions really mean. We just kind of let it float out there because the status quo of how you interpret your information is just basically just like, oh, just let it float out there. Trust your professor. Trust your government. Trust Big Brother. Trust your history books. Trust everything that you've been conditioned to believe. Why? Because that's the evolutionary peak of intelligence. It's the evolutionary peak of humanity. And if you are against science, you are against humanity. So it's the same way that these new age movements and this liberal fake feminism movements that are out there, they demonize people who think differently than them. So it happens in the flat earth community. It's easier when I say it in reference to that because for the people who are watching this video know what I'm talking about. 2 years ago, or even like 2 years ago, when I first started, or 3 years ago when I started making flat earth videos, it was about a year, a good solid year, where I was still kind of like not questioning whether or not it was flat or a globe, but questioning what this really means. Why do these things exist? And it took about a year to really break it down. Everything always linked back to control over the human story, control over the masses of people, control over the consciousness. Because as long as you control the minds, you can control the bodies. And in order to control the mind, you have to control the spirit.
Educare, educo. Draw out that which is within. That's the meaning of the word educate. The Latin derivative of the term educate, educare, to draw out that which is within. Once you lay the foundation of the basis of who you are based on your nature and the knowledge of self, you then turn to the external to find your place in the world. We are not down here trying to overthrow this white boy. You're down here trying to raise up God in yourself.
So the spirit was first controlled with the religious spiritual warfare. Once the religious spiritual warfare started to lose its control and power over the people, the psychological warfare was entered in when they started to conquer land and said that they discovered it. And then they started to develop their fake proof. So in closing, this is the moon landing. The supposed moon landing in 1969 is the same thing that the kings and queens of the 1492 time frames, the same thing happened when Christopher Columbus said that he sailed the ocean blue and realized that the earth is a globe.
Religion is the organization of spirituality into something that became the handmaiden of conquerors. Nearly all religions were brought to people and imposed on people by conquerors and used as the framework to control their minds. My main point here is that if you are a child of God and God is a part of you, then in your imagination, God's supposed to look like you. And when you accept a picture of the deity assigned to you by another people, you become the spiritual prisoners of that other people.
It was the same thing. The moon landing equals Christopher Columbus saying that the earth was a globe. And they generated those, they had their theories first. They had their hypothesis first, and then they did a fake moon landing on the ocean. So instead of going to the moon, they just went over the curve to the Americas. And that's when they said, oh, we mistakenly thought we were going to India, but we just happened to end up here. So here's your proof that the earth is a globe. And then they had hundreds and hundreds of years after that just generating artificial theories and artificial equations to back up their new synthetic facts. Their new synthetic facts. The foundation for their new synthetic facts, like I said, was Christopher Columbus supposedly going over the curve with the boat to discover that the ocean was round or a sphere. And then once that mind control program started to reach a peak of where, well, you know, we're losing control. This is why in 1969 all this stuff popped off. Because at the same time, the consciousness of the people was doing what? What was happening in 1969?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by the black nation.
I mean black people's lives, being self-determining, defining yourself, naming yourself, and having political power. We're a nation already without political power and military power. We're a cultural nation without political and military power. We're a nation, you know, in captivity by another people, a people who have a different, totally different culture than we have, who cannot even relate to the things that we relate to. That is the problem. And as black women, we have to be the inspiration for the nation, for our men. We have to start out into the community educating the children, educating ourselves. Because once we educate ourselves, the children will become educated, because we are the ones that teach the children. We are the ones that decorate the homes. We are the ones that are with both female and male children. We are the ones that the children look to as the image.
Police are able to use the press to make the white public think that 90% or 99% of the Negroes in the Negro community are criminals. And once the white public is convinced that most of the Negro community is a criminal element, then this automatically paves the way for the police to move into the Negro community, exercising Gestapo tactics, stopping any black man who is on the sidewalk, whether he is guilty or whether he is innocent, whether he is well-dressed or whether he is poorly dressed, whether he is educated or whether he is dumb, whether he's a Christian or whether he's a Muslim. As long as he is black and a member of the Negro community, the white public thinks that the white policeman is justified in going in there and trampling on that man's civil rights and on that man's human rights.
Because like I said, heliocentrism ain't about the science, because you know it's an illusion. Heliocentrism is about the control over the people. Do you think it was a coincidence that in 1969, in the ass crack of the Black Panthers, the Vietnam War itself, the whole peace and love movement, where you had the so-called hippies coming together and saying we don't need to go to war anymore. See what and the Black Panthers were saying the same thing. Like, not only are we not gonna fight this war for other people, against other people, all these wars were criminal in the first place. So you had people coming together against a common enemy. And that common enemy was the establishment. So that represented the consciousness of the people coming together. The left and the right brains, the masculine and feminine energies, whether we knew what the hell we were doing with it or not, it was happening. and people knew what they were doing with it in their own bubble. So you had the Black Panthers, you had the Flower Children, you had the people the veterans against the war, you had the soldiers, you had Muhammad Ali, these athletes, you had some entertainers, you had musicians, you had all these people that were coming together and were speaking up. Boom. Now we're on the moon. Now we have civil rights. Everything changes. Everything changes. The consciousness of the people who weren't really informed on how deep this story goes. So like parts of the hippie movement, the peace and love movement, they accepted the concessions of the civil rights movement, and then they accepted the idea that we were evolving because we supposedly went to the moon. So that shut down a good chunk, a huge percentage of the people who are a part of that movement because they were not informed. This is why I said it's so crucial to get informed before you do anything, because then you'll just end up repeating history because you're gonna accept a deeper mind control program. So the same thing happened with Christopher Columbus. Think about how they were promoting it. Think about how what the commercials would be like back in 1492. Or back in 15, whenever, when Christopher Columbus came back to the King and the Queen, and then was just like, yeah, think of all the commercials, the TV shows, and that would have been on at that time. Think about what they would have been saying. They would have been having, just like MTV did after the Apollo missions, they would have put the Moon Man all over MTV. They would have made it cool and hip. The same thing they did from the 70s to the 80s with MTV. It's just a moving of energy, a moving of consciousness, a molding of the brain, a molding of the mind to think, act, and feel a certain way.
Ah, the government. It loves you and wants to keep you safe and well. It even wants to make paying taxes, fines, and court costs easier for you. How? Well, you'll need to meet your straw man. He was born the same day you were. He looks like you, has the same name, and lives in your house, but you never knew he existed. You will have even paid his parking tickets or taxes. The worst part? He's been dead from day one. From every birth certificate, a legal personality, or legal fiction, is created with the same name to confuse little old you into thinking it's you. So, there's a human you and a paper you, or as it's commonly known, a straw man. So when it seems like government officials, court clerks, or the police are speaking English, they aren't. They're speaking legalese, designed to make you agree.
There is no way to make America great again. Because if there is ever to be any greatness on America's agenda, it must be in the future. And it will consist precisely in the overcoming of the capitalist forces that have impoverished not only so many people in this country, but people all over the world.
So you got a U.S. citizenship. What is a U.S. citizenship? Well, United States, or U.S., is a corporation. And the only reason why you're on this land is because they're colonizing. That means that Christopher Columbus landed, or he didn't land, he rode over here with some Moors because he didn't know how to navigate through the water. So he navigated over here, then brought more and more Europeans. They started killing off the Native Americans, which you think are light-skinned people with feathers, which is not true. A true American is the various copper-toned peoples on the American continent, i.e. the Moors, the descendants of Moroccans born in America, our Moroccans, Americans.
And the best thing to do that I've seen right now is help people get rid of the excess baggage that keeps them from moving at all, internally and externally. And then people themselves individually, once they get to that point to where they think and feel that it's time to move, then they'll move. But if you're being weighed down, we're being weighed down by the university system. We're weighed down by the mainstream media. We're weighed down by manifest destiny, weighed down by gentrification, weighed down by white supremacy, weighed down by this whole belief that technology and the university system is the evolutionary peak of humanity. We're weighed down by all these theories and hypotheses that are being pawned off as facts. It's the heaviest shit you can have on your person when you're trying to expand your consciousness. And the system, all the comedy shows, all the news every day, all the social media is vested in making you repack your bags with all their bullshit every single day of your life. And one of the biggest things that they've told you to pack in your luggage as you clunk down the road of your human experience is this dead, empty version of who and what you are, from a Big Bang to the Dead Planets universe to dinosaurs, which is a cartoon not only for kids but for humans, or for not like you kids are not humans, but for adults, kids and adults. This is what you think Jurassic Park and all these other Jurassic World movies and all that other shit. In order to lock yourself into the next mind control program, which is, instead of dinosaurs in evolution, nowadays you have robots or transhumanists and simulation theory. This is the evolution of today. Back then it was dinosaurs and slugs and fish and shit. Now it's technology, social media. Stop carrying around a clunky smartphone that was built slim to fit in your pocket, and now put it on a ring, put it on a bracelet, put it inside your skin. And then when that gets old, then you can just immerse yourself completely into a technological virtual reality. And then watch, you're gonna see people, like people are playing video games today. People are going to be, and they're already doing it, people are going to be immersing themselves in virtual reality games and virtual reality worlds for hours upon hours upon hours to escape this nonsense of reality today. This is what we're being herded, chatteled into. And the more belief that you have in that world, the more trust that you have in that world, the easier it's going to be to enslave you. So on that note, I kind of went off on a this video was supposed to be a lot shorter and was supposed to focus on the in my head, supposed to focus on the scientific interpretations, but it went a little further. So for the people who stayed for the entire video after the points were made, I thank you. I'll probably change the title anyway, but we'll see. That's really what I wanted to focus on here. So thank you for joining me, and until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.